Welcome to Seeking Numina, the Sacred Places podcast. I'm your host, Elise Wells, and today I'm joined by Tudorbeth, a prolific author and deck creator. Tudorbeth is a hereditary witchcraft practitioner who has written about magic for nearly 40 years. A prolific author of spells and magical practices, she contributes regularly to international publications, including her online column in Kindred Spirit. She has written many books on witchcraft, including A Spell Book for All Seasons, the Hedgewitch's Little Book series with Llewellyn, Witch Scope, and The Witch Within. Her first tarot deck, the Hedgewitch's Tarot, was published by Llewellyn, reflecting her longtime passion for using tarot in both divination and spellwork. She has contributed to Llewellyn's Spell-A-Day 2023 Almanac, Magical Almanac 2024, and The Witch's Companion 2024. She has appeared at Llewellyn Con and hosts the podcast Tudorbeth Travels. She also shares spells and magical recipes on social media as @Tudorbeth7. Her books and links can be found at houseofbaith.com. And that's Baith like birch. So you'll see that link in the show notes. Welcome to Seeking Numina. I'm your host, Elise Wells, and I invite you to connect with the sacred wild within and around you through Numina, or sacred sites around the world, and the wisdom they hold. Together, let's remember the old ways, build relationships with land spirits, and dare to reach out to the fairies. The sacred wild is inviting you to dance in the moonlight. Will you answer their call? Thank you so much for being here. Today we're going to talk about the hedge as a sacred place because I love this because it's a spiritual, ethereal, metaphysical sacred place, but it's also a place we can visit in the physical. So it really encapsulates spirit work in every way. So I'm excited for this conversation.
And thank you for asking me, Elise. It's lovely to be here.
When did you first engage with the hedge? What drew you to, or maybe we'll start with there for those who might not be familiar. Maybe define the hedge in your words, and then tell us how you
Okay,
first engaged.
I've engaged with it from the very beginning, basically of my birth. There's pictures of my father carrying me as a baby along the countryside, and there's the hedge there because that's so that's it's always been around me. But the hedge represents a border. So a hedge doesn't have to be in the countryside. This is what I was trying to when I was thinking about our interview. I was thinking how can I describe it? The hedge can be any hedge. It doesn't have to be this glorified image that we have in our heads of, the Sleeping Beauty hedge of the roses and all, all this drama. The hedge can be just a little tiny shrubbery. It's something that's is a marker for from one part to another part. That's your land, that's my land. It crosses this boundary, and it symbolizes this border. So the hedge can be absolutely anything, from any plant, any trees, anything at all. But it means the border, and it's sort of a that it's an in between. That's the best way to describe the border. The hedge is an in between, and we have many in betweens in this world. But the hedge itself, as you quite rightly said, brings it into the physical, so you can experience that hedge and that liminal spiritual atmosphere wherever you are, where there is that hedge, where that border is. You could be walking in the park with your dog. You could be out in the countryside walking, and there's that hedge, or there could be the water hedge. That's another one. That's a really deep one. When you've got a river or a stream, that's one side, and there's the stream, and then there's the other side. So that water is also a border, is a hedge. So it's about expanding our ideas of what we think of the hedge, but it is the place of it in between. And in between is one of the most spiritual places we have. The world itself has in between, such as time. So the time between 12 midnight and 1 o'clock in the morning is an in between. It's the world's in between. It's massive, and a lot of things happen in that time. So it's incredibly a spiritual place, and you might experience different physicalities when you're out walking the dog, or out just walking in the countryside or walking anywhere on the beach, anywhere. And all of a sudden, you may experience that time stands still. The birds will stop singing, the winds stop blowing, and it's completely still. You've stepped into an in between. You stepped into the border of a hedge, and that's what the hedge is. And I think when you begin to learn these signs and these practices, you become aware of, like, oh yeah, I walk through that park, and it goes quiet at that time, or it yeah. And so the hedge is that spiritual luminosity, that weird place that science will never be able to quantify, in my view. Um,
Yeah.
but it's that place brought into the physical reality, and that's the hedge.
And I find the hedge such a powerful symbolism because it's proof. So
Mm,
often seekers are struggling to really believe it's real, especially when we talk
yeah.
about trance and spirit work and visiting the astral and getting dream communication and all these things that are very intangible. They're not physically tangible. And they're also hard to put into words. And our minds, our rational human minds in our Western capitalist world, it wants facts, it wants
Mm,
order, it wants to be able to describe. And it
yeah.
defies description to really describe what it's like to step beyond the veil and engage with spirit and to know that that wind chime is sounding with that wind spirit to let you as a human know that you've been seen and received by a sacred place. It's hard to
Mm,
feel, we get imposter syndrome feelings come up. We get
mm,
comparison wounds of, oh, is that somebody, is this a good enough connection? Is this as strong as so and so's connection? We get in our heads so fast, but the hedge is a physical proof that there is another side. There is a
mm,
liminal space. We can see liminal spaces everywhere. One of my favorite extensions of this concept of the hedge as the liminal is under bridges. I
mm.
love doing magic under a bridge because bridges are liminal. Anytime we travel a bridge, it's a great opportunity to release. But when we're under a bridge, especially a bridge, I'm very fortunate that I live about 200 feet from, when I'm in the United States, I'm about 200 feet from the Susquehanna River. She's right there. Where she flows also is train tracks. So I can be at her edge in this liminal space of the river's edge. And there's a
Mm.
beautiful hedge there as well. There's this preserved land that all the animals have to themselves. It's this mossy, boggy kind of environment, and you walk through that to get to the water's edge. So you have this kind of procession through the hedge in a way to get to this liminal space. But then we have trains going overhead. And the trains go east to west. So I like to send energy that I don't want. I let the train take it to the west. I just let it take it with it. So that's something I do with my coven. We'll go down there after a ritual, and any releasing that we have left, any lingering energy that needs to be released, we just go to the river. We take our offerings, leave it for the land, from our altar during the ritual, and then we send it all back with the train, like anything extra that needs, especially with the ancestor work we did at Samhain. Like that was so powerful to be able
Mm.
to release some of the grief and invite some of the connection. And it's silly, it's I think people get very somber and serious about hedges and liminal spaces, but they can be places of play, especially when you get the river involved.
Yes, absolutely. And what you described, I was going to ask, does your river then go from north to south? Because it sounds to me like you've got a
Hmm.
crossroads,
Yes,
so not only are you in between, but you've got a crossroads. So that is
that's
incredibly
so true.
powerful.
And it
Yeah.
just scaffolds like this particular place. There is a crossroads of three roads that cars are traveling behind you when you're
Oh,
under the
yeah.
bridge. So yeah, there's all kinds of energy flowing through there. And there's a second 3-point crossroad. Actually, if I think about it, this point of the river I'm describing, there's a 3-point crossroad just ahead of it, so down to the south and then up to the north as well. So I'm actually between two crossroads and
Yeah.
under a bridge and at the edge of the water.
Wow. Yeah, you sound like you've got a really good good place to do a lot of powerful work there. And it sounds to me like it could also be a little bit of a time loop that you could have certain time messes about. So people with digital watches or things like that, their watches may go a bit weird round there. The phones may go a bit weird round there. Anything that uses magnetic power and things could go weird round there. But it sounds to me like, yeah, that's a really lovely place. That's a,
It is. And it's funny
hanging
because
out there all the time.
I do because when I'm in Greece, I'm usually there for long stints of time. And so to
Mm,
reground back here, especially this year with all the politics, and it's just such a
mm,
challenge to ground in the
yeah,
United States at all right now. And the river, that location specifically at the river was where I was able to really ground and feel that kind of the weight of the egregore lift and just be present with
yeah.
those land spirits, which I think is the great gift of working with land spirits and working with land spirits at Hedges, is it gives us this reminder that our reality is really just one layer of it
Mm,
all.
yeah, absolutely. Those little energies that do so much, and we don't realize what they're actually getting up to, but they're all around us all the time. Yeah.
So in the UK, there are, for those who might not know, hedges are a literal formation of roads. They're essentially your guardrails in the countryside,
Mm,
in these roads
yeah.
that most people would think is a one lane, but that is a two-lane road. You may have to sidle into said hedge to let people pass at any moment. Um, and they're made of yew quite often. Have you
And
found
hawthorn.
and hawthorn. So I was going to ask you that.
Mm.
Do you find a difference in the energy of a hedge in that traditional definition when it's made from one tree versus another?
Yeah, of course. But it relies on the witch or the practitioner who's working with them because we've all got a plant or a tree or something that we lean towards that will be our or, automatically our connection. Mine is the hawthorn, so I do love the hawthorn, and whenever I see a hawthorn hedge, that's it. I'll be out round there. But yeah, we have many different types of hawthorn. And here in where I live here in Lincolnshire, there's a problem because the local councils keep cutting down the trees. So now there's this massive surge of like we've got to plant more trees because we've cut them all down. So now we need to plant them. So yeah, there's more little hedges going up with these young saplings and new trees and things. So that's good. So that's like an emerging new hedge that, as an elder, you kind of like want to be protective of and you look after. And there's quite a number of witches and practitioners that will go out and look after these little sapling hedges that are in their infancy because we're just, beginnings.
And
Because
that's
they'll be
really
there long
special.
after we've gone. Yes,
Exactly.
very.
It's the perfect metaphor for what we do as witches and as writers.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
always think that way about my writing is this will be here long, long, long after I'm gone. It's something that's not for me. It's not even for necessarily for all the people who can read it right now. It's for all the people who might need it. I feel that way about your writing as well. And I think it's very special that you get to have this connection to this hedge that will be for others. It's so
That's
selfless and
it.
that's the act of service that is witchcraft that I think gets lost in the wide conversation.
Yeah, it's not quite activism, but it's in environmentally awareness kind of activism that we'll take away the rubbish, we'll lift the litter away from them. We'll make sure that because we had quite a lot of droughts and things, so let's make sure they've got water. Let's look after them. Let's, protect them, put the wires round, make sure nobody cuts them down, make sure, this, that, and the other. Um, so yeah, there's quite a lot that are protecting those new life, as it were.
So how would you define being a hedge witch? If somebody feels called to that label, and what is being a
Hedge
hedge witch?
What's being a hedge witch? A hedge witch traditionally is a solitary practitioner of the craft, so we don't feel the need to be in a part of a covenant. We can be if we want to be, but traditionally it was in the old days it was the first house that you came to in a village that was the witches. She lived once again in an in-between. She didn't live in the village and she didn't live out in the countryside. She lived in that land in between, just as you were approaching, but not quite. So she was always border. So she was of the hedge herself. Um, Traditionally she was always female, but things change. We got to move with the times, I say. um, so so a solitary practitioner of the craft and somebody who has that calling to be aware that we work with lots of different energies, that there is many different energies that we can connect to. And it's not, it's not just in the kitchen. We're not kitchen witches. We're not um chaos witches. We're not just we're this other. And no two are alike. I always say that no two hedge witches are alike. Other than that, they will follow the correspondences. They will follow and then add to them themselves, probably. They will follow the correspondences. They're very creative. They believe in Fae. They work with Fae. They believe in that other world. And quite frankly, the ones that I've met would rather live in that other world than in this one at this present moment in time. Um, but yeah, they do a lot of trance work. Some of them are very uh, 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 trance, meaning that. What do I mean when I say trance? So essentially, if you've got a friend who may be a head witch or something, and you go to a museum with them or a gallery, and you're looking at a picture of them, they're the ones that have the ability to make the picture start to move. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but some you look like Monet's water flowers that we water lilies that we have. I can do that. I have a way of doing that, and I'll go keep looking at it, and all of a sudden you'll see the water trickle and start to move and things. So they're in this other place, and they have that ability. So this trance-like quality to them that they can just switch off and go. Um, yeah, that can be a problem.
Yeah. It's so interesting that you use that example because I've been feeling, let's see, how do I put this in words? This is the province of the hedge witch, I think, is struggling to find the words to describe
Mm,
experience. But I've been noticing that a lot of I think this is why I've struggled with witch talk versus Instagram or Facebook.
yeah.
There's a lot of people now who are thinking of their craft in terms of what it looks like. And I think the most powerful work is either going to be completely within or it's going to be somewhere not visible to our naked eyes. It's going to be in the astral. It's going to be things we see, or it might be here in the physical plane, like a painting showing us a movement,
Mm,
showing us movement. But it's for us. It's not necessarily something you could record on a Instagram reel
yeah.
or something.
Yeah. You can't do it.
Yeah, I think that's why the hedge witch conversation really is important right now. It really needs to be revived because when I was first coming up in the craft in the early 2000s, that was that was a term that was much more used and it was more accessibly learned about. Like I feel like today, if I looked for a course or a practitioner who was guiding on hedge witch practices, it would be harder to find than lots of other things that we'll see. There's lots of resistance magic, and it works with we work with the times as witches. We have to be aware of the moment that we're in.
Mm,
So I can understand why what is out there, but the hedge witch it's we were all forced in a way to be hedge witches 5 years ago during the pandemic. And a lot of
mm,
us, I think, found our magical power in that space. So even if you are somebody drawn to practicing aesthetic witchcraft or having a big, beautiful altar or practicing in groups and going to public ritual and joining online courses. And, even if you're drawn to a more social version of witchcraft, I think the path of the hedge witch is one everybody benefits from stepping onto at times because we really gain the most experience as witches when we sit with the discomfort of, I cannot prove this. I cannot show this to someone else as I've experienced it, and I'm okay with that.
mm,
Getting comfortable with that, being able to accept that, That's the true gift. A hedge witch has experiences that she'll never share because
Yeah,
they're for her. And that's in this world of status updates, it feels antithetical, but it actually is more important than ever to be turning inward in the way that the hedge witch guides us to.
yeah. It is a very spiritual, and like I say, solitary path. And you have to be very confident in your own self to follow that path. I mean, I was very fortunate because I had that family background within the craft, and I look on, places like Instagram and social media generally, and you look at how much is popping up on there that is actually AI generated,
Yeah.
and that is really frightening for me because it's like our history, and when I say our, I'm talking about the craft in general. Um, it's being rewritten by a computer, and I think what's the agenda behind that computer, behind that algorithm, behind that AI generated view of this is a kitchen witch, this is a hedge, this is no, it's it's destroying individuality, and I have a fear of AI within the craft. Um, but it's all over Insta, it's all over social media, and you're like, and some
Mm.
young novices that are coming up, they don't know, they wouldn't know. It's very well done, it's very good, but mm, trust your instincts.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, and grow
lesson
your
number one.
instincts. Yeah.
Wicca 101, witchcraft 101. Trust, trust your instincts. Know thyself. Always know thyself.
Yeah.
Mm,
That perfect love and perfect trust with spirit and self. And that's
yeah.
something else I harp on. My listeners are probably rolling their eyes, but I do harp on it, like how important perfect love and perfect trust is, that it's the foundation
Mm,
of modern witchcraft. And people have just lost it. They don't talk about it. They don't use that terminology in their teaching. And I don't see that on the AI. I don't see that on Instagram. Um, and I can't
yeah,
even
it
speak for
can't be.
TikTok because I just can't engage with it. I haven't had it on my phone in a while, but yeah, it is interesting. We went from, I think we had this beautiful golden era in the 2010s where you could find practitioners using the internet and it was so
Mm,
exciting. But now there's more misinformation than information. So the
yeah.
discernment is so important. So we're kind of coming full circle back to, okay, maybe the internet's not a useful place to learn. I have to just use it as a tool to find people that I can learn from in ways that we know can't be AI, like live interaction or Zoom calls or, voice notes,
Yeah,
things that are tangible.
absolutely, absolutely. It is. Oh, it's a worry.
Yeah. It's
It's
an
a real
interesting
worry.
hedge. The internet is an
Mm,
interesting hedge because it is such a liminal space. And I've always viewed it like when people talk about like, oh, I'm bad at texting. I'm like, texting is not, it was never meant to be our form of communication. It was meant to be like a pager was. Just let them know you're thinking of them and then you set up a phone call or you set up a time to get together. It's never was supposed to be the full communication. I think that's where people are at the internet now. They're still thinking of it as the full experience. And it's not. It's just an amuse-bouche. It's not even an appetizer. It's a little taste of what
mm,
magic is. And magic happens at the end of the day off the computer.
yeah, absolutely. This is it. And you can experience it on your own, magic on your own, like a hedge witch does. But you can also experience the woo-woo within a group, or with just one or two friends, or with one friend, like I say, going around museums or galleries, or just doing your natural thing, and then you go and experience weird things that happen, and they usually do. They will do. The weird things will happen. And and you don't get that from the internet. You don't get trusting your instincts or learning through your mistakes to look for the signs because they're everywhere. um, like keys going missing or little things going missing and or they appearing in different places or lights going off and all of these little things that you don't realize, or the first autumn leaf coming down. You don't experience any of that on the internet.
Yeah. Or the last autumn leaf. I had this really magical moment 2 weeks ago. Our tree back
Oh,
here has been on its way. All these leaves have been pretty much gone. And I was standing outside with my husband. We start our morning always with the land spirits. We walk around the whole property and we just say good morning to everybody and we water everyone with rainwater that we collect. And we were looking at this tree and I was like, I think any minute, I feel it, any minute, that last leaf is gonna fall. And as we looked at it, a wind gust came and just gently took the leaf and it landed right between both of us on the ground. It was incredible. Yeah, and I
there you
think of
go,
that. I'm
the
like,
wind spirits.
yeah, our wind spirits here are very communicative. It is wonderful. I feel like I've been blessed with, I think wind likes me because I've had a few good moments with wind spirits across the world. I could think of places. Yeah, it's just,
No,
it's wonderful.
yeah.
And I hope people will be encouraged to explore the hedge a little bit. What would be a good, let's end with a practice we could give people if they have a hedge, a border that they can go visit. What could be something they could do to introduce themselves to that hedge or begin a
Um,
relationship there?
I think learn to, like I say, learn to see the signs, because you might be talking to, or acknowledge it. I mean, you might think people walking past you might think you're absolutely bonkers. But if you can get it nice and quiet, go and just introduce yourself to the hedge, whatever kind of hedge it is, whether if it be the tree spirits or the plant spirits or the fae or anything that you're connected to. So I would say learn a little bit about the different types of energies. And when I talk about different energies, I'm talking about the sprites and the air spirits and and little fire sprites and the fae themselves. Um, and that we have brownies up in Scotland as well. So make yourself aware, but then when you go to the hedge, just acknowledge it and say hello, and say you'd like to work with them if you would want to work with them, um, and then see what happens around you. Learn to be aware of the signs. That's the stillness, a certain rustle in the air. You kind of will know it. It's different from a normal breeze, a normal wind, but this thing seems to be isolated. So an isolated type of flicker of the hedge, of the leaves at one particular spot. That's another sign. Silence is a sign. Isolated wind is a sign. The birds not singing, or one particular bird singing, or one particular bird appearing because he or she may be your familiar that's decided to come and appear there on the hedge. And that goes with any animals. A cat may suddenly appear. You never know if you're out in the countryside. A horse may suddenly appear from somewhere. Anything. Learn to see the signs and be aware of them. And then there's also that learn the feelings of the earth. Like you might, or the awareness of all of your senses. So you may smell sort of like sweetness where there's no flowers. You may have a flower smell. You may also feel electrical charge. You might have the hairs on your arms go up, or you may actually physically smell the electrical charge somewhere. So you've that's the first lesson in working with the hedge, is to learn its language, and it is the language of nature. Just to be aware, just to see those signs to begin with. Because when you start to see the signs and understand that language, you can then have that two-way communication with the hedge.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much for being here, Tudorbeth. This was a great conversation. I'm so excited for
Yeah.
your Hedgewitch Tarot.
Yes, me
And
too.
you have some other books coming up this coming year in 2026?
Um, well, they've already been out. There was one called Witch Scope, which is the Witch's Zodiac, which I loved doing, and then the other one was just the end of last year, I think, The Witch Within with the Hardy Grant, which is a lovely book. If you're really new to the practice and you've no idea what type of witchcraft you want to go down or what have you. It's a very good book because there's like questions in it, and it gives you 25 different types of witchcraft routes to go down, different types of witch types you could be.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's a good one to pick up if this conversation's been sparking your curiosity.
Yes, and it's a lovely book. And Angela, her I don't know if you can see any of them, but her
Yeah, you can hold
drawings
them
are
up.
amazing. So I hope you get some. There's some beautiful her images,
Oh,
drawings.
stunning.
She's just amazing. I like working with Angela. So
Yeah,
Angela Rizza is the artist. Yeah.
fantastic. Always give an artist credit too. I love that.
Oh,
It's
absolutely,
they're
absolutely. I mean, they were in my head, and she was able to make what was in my head come real. And it's just that's judgment. Oh, look at that. It's
oh,
so cool.
wow. Oh my gosh, I can't
It's so
wait to get
cool.
my copy.
You
Stunning.
should, you should. And there's the fool. If there's got a
Oh,
medieval tone to them, it's because I'm also doing a doctorate in medieval studies.
oh,
So
nice.
I have this thing about the medieval times, really ancient medieval times. Yes. So that's why there's that in my head as well.
I love medieval times. I was literally just yesterday writing about, well, actually, I guess I shouldn't say this. It's in my next book, so spoiler alert, everybody. But I
All
was
right.
writing about medieval practices with the hedge, with beating the bounds and the different ways that in medieval times they engaged with the
Yeah,
land spirits. All right,
that's
thank you
great.
so much for being here.
Thank you, Elise. Thank you very much.
Thank you for seeking Numina with me today. Join me at patreon.com/Elise Wells to support this show and get access to a library of rituals, exclusive videos, meditations, and more. To learn more about my upcoming retreats, book a tarot reading, or learn with me in workshops, classes, or mentorship, visit seekingnumina.com.